You know, I think the most shocking celebrity deaths that really like kind of like made me sit back and go, whoa. These people, they're celebrities. They have everything they really want. They have, people love them, they worship them. I always have in my mind that these celebrities are just people. They're people. Yeah, they have a lot of money. Yeah, they have a lot of things, but they're people. They go through struggles. They cry. Probably, it's probably worse that they're celebrities because they have no privacy. They have to do. They get involved with a lot more stuff. They have access to a lot more stuff easily. That's why you have celebrities that are die from overdoses, or they commit suicide because they're financially done, they spent too much. It's a mess. But then you have celebrities who are humble and they don't need all that stuff. They live a simple life, and you hear stories. They do charitable work. I mean, Sean Penn's a dick. I don't like the guy, but the guy does charitable work, and that's awesome. You don't have to you don't have to necessarily like the person to appreciate what he or she has done. So when a celebrity dies, we don't. Some of us are not too attached. We may like their films. We may, met them once at an autograph session or whatever it may be. But we don't. We tend not to really, just it happened. It's sad. Move on. Some celebrity deaths are so shocking, just the way how it all happens, or how much you see that they were going to be somebody huger than what they were, and they're actually a pretty damn decent human being. They don't want all this spotlight on them. They try to live their life. 40 years old. 40 years old to tragically go and to be such a human being who gives back so much. One of the shocking deaths I've come to just think about, to say, damn, just stop and say, this guy really, it happened to this guy really? Like, damn, that's insane. The people that I've thought said that and sat back and go, wow, just really sit back and think like just who they are, not the career wise, but just who they are and where they were going. Had to be Bernie Mac was one of them. One of the shocking ones. Hands down, Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger was such a shock, especially when The Dark Knight was coming out, and I saw him in 10 Things I Hate About You. And just the guy just was so quiet. He was never, out publicly, getting drunk or whatever. But the one that really just, when I think of, is just so heartbreaking. And it sucks to know that people tell your stories after you're gone, and instead of telling, what you've done when you're here. I think that's wrong. I think we need to be, really, if there's somebody personally you love, or somebody you're friends with and stuff, your friend is actually a good human being and stuff, let everybody know. Let everybody know. Don't wait until they croak before you tell anybody. I think you got to really let people know how this person is, no matter what. Instead of instead of really expressing how you feel when they're gone. You got to tell them, and you got to tell others. You're actually a really cool person. You're an awesome person. Sometimes you're a dick, but you're an awesome person. I think it's a shame that Mr. Paul Walker is basically, we heard all this charitable work and stuff. Maybe some people knew about this stuff, but a lot of people didn't know how much of charitable he was when he was living. I mean, he had so many charities and stuff. Nobody really a lot of people didn't really know that until he passed. And I think that's a damn shame. I think we should have really said something once he was alive. So I really don't like that when that happens to just people in general. until we find out when they pass and stuff. You gotta just let people know now, because if they deserve it, then people will let other people know, like, hey, this person was a really good person. This guy, I mean, I know he's not looking for recognition, this and that, but damn, this dude or she is just an amazing person. Paul Walker, I mean, he is a celebrity. I didn't know the guy, this and that. It just makes me sit back and say, damn. And this week is his last, pretty much say goodbye. This is his last film, Furious 7. Anybody who loves the Fast and Furious franchise know he's such a big part to this film franchise. And he'll be just sorely missed if they move forward. I don't want to read the reviews. I saw 2 reviews. That's it. I don't want to see no spoilers. I usually like spoilers. I don't want to see nothing. I would just want to go in there and see how they do Paul Walker justice and just see how this film turns out. That's the biggest honor I can give them. It's just not looking at, not knowing what happens to how they did it. Just being there with a fresh mindset, fresh eyes, and say, all right, see how it goes. I don't do that now. I don't do that in my movies anymore. I used to always see spoilers and stuff, but now that I've been doing this chapter, I go in there with the fresh take. But yeah, man, it's a damn shame. Now, Paul Walker lived actually in Santa Barbara, and I actually live in Santa Maria, and I used to live in Santa Barbara. I used to live in Ventura. I used to live in Santa Margarita. I used to live in San Luis Obispo. Santa Maria to Santa Barbara, it's about an hour and 45. And we always knew that Paul Walker loved this Taco Bell joint. So there's like this little shitty ass Taco Bell joint over there by Fairview, I think, something like that. It's a shitty ass Taco Bell joint, but I guess he absolutely loved that place. He would always go in there. So it was just really cool before he tragically passed to know that it's like, oh yeah, Paul Walker loves going to that Taco Bell place. He's too fast, too furious for his tacos. So that was always really a cool thing. And then also I just want to say this real quick before we get into basically a lot of things he's accomplished. This story where I saw on TV, I could probably butcher some of the details, but all in all, basically it was just about a guy who came from his tour, from Afghanistan. He wanted to propose to his fiance. He goes into the jewelry store and he's looking at rings, and he asks the guy who's helping him, how much is this? And at the time, Paul Walker's in the background looking at some stuff as well. So the guy who's helping the guy who was on tour, the soldier, he said it was this much. So the soldier said, I can't afford that. So he gave it to him back. He said, okay, thank you, I'm gone. Paul Walker went over to the guy who helped that soldier, and he asked him, how much was that ring? And the guy told him. Paul Walker said, well, I'm going to buy it. Okay, put it on my card. And he gave it to the soldier. He gave it to the soldier so he could propose to his then girlfriend, now fiance / wife. That's an awesome. I mean, that ring. The rings could probably what, $30,000, whatever. I'm not married, so it's probably super expensive. Just that generosity, just helping the everyday guy, and it happened to be a soldier, just really great. He probably would. I mean, and he's a soldier, yeah. So, but I just really love that story. I think that's really something that story really just gets to me. It makes me think about just what kind of person he was. And then he also was definitely an activist towards animals. He loved animals. If he was in that one movie, which Eight Below. Was it Eight Below? No, it was I'll get to it right now. It's the one with all the huskies. I have a husky myself, so he loved dogs, and he was very charitable with the Dog Foundation. Look at the movies he's been in. Pleasantville. He had a little, it was a little role, but I do remember him in Pleasantville. He was in Varsity Blues. Varsity Blues was actually a great role. I really liked him in that film as well. He was on, even though he was on crutches and stuff, and then he ends up being the coach. But the Fast and the Furious was really where he really got his jump start. I mean, Brian O'Connor, Dom, really loved his character, really loved the chemistry between him and Vin Diesel. That's where he really, really shined and really took off. His star just really rose, and rightfully so. And the guy loves vehicles. The guy loves cars. He races cars. He did in Too Fast, Too Furious. He freaking did some of his own stunts. The studio didn't want him to do his own stunts, but he did it. The one scene when they're in a freeway chase and he spins, he like kind of drifts and spins, and then he's driving backwards. That was all him. So he knew his stuff, and that's really cool to know that he had a lot of fun with this franchise. You could tell he really loved this franchise, even though I think Too Fast, Too Furious did suck. But Joyride was another great film. It was really good. I really enjoyed that as well. Then you had Timeline. You had I believe it's Eight Below. I think that's the dog movie, Eight Below. I think, yeah, it has to be Eight Below. I remember watching it in the movie theaters too. I really did like that film. I really loved the dogs on there too. The Death of the Life of Bobby Z, didn't really see that. Flags of Our Father, a little bit. I think I saw him a little bit in that. I love Flags of Our Father. Going back to Fast and Furious, I'm so happy he went back to that film. I'm so happy he went back to the Fast and Furious franchise, because this franchise wouldn't be as great if it wasn't for him and Vin Diesel. These two are the stars. And of course, The Rock did boost it up even more. And then you had Hours. I have Hours. I haven't seen it yet, but it looks very tragic. Brick Mansion. I haven't seen Brick Mansion yet. I have that film as well. But the Fast and the Furious movies, we all know him from the Fast and the Furious movies, and he's just phenomenal in those movies. I think acting wise, he wasn't as good. He was getting better. I think the first movie he was not too bad. Too Fast and Furious was pretty bad. Then he just started getting better acting wise. I think he wasn't the greatest actor in the world, but he was really good as an actor, and he was just getting better and better with more. The more time he aged, he was just getting better and better and better. So Paul Walker, by any means, he was a great actor. He was a good actor. He was just getting so much better as time went by. Now, if you didn't know this, he loved jiu-jitsu. He did jiu-jitsu. He has a brown belt. They gave him a black belt, after his death. So that's really cool to know that, Paul Walker kicked some ass in real life. So Paul Walker was definitely one of those guys who lived his life to the fullest. Of course, he has a daughter, and Vin Diesel did name his daughter after Paulina or something like that. So that's really great. Him and Vin Diesel had a close relationship. I remember seeing in magazines, though, that at one point they did fight. They weren't in, equal eyes, but it's like a brother and brother relationship. You're not going to talk to your brother for a while because he pissed you off about something, but you're going to get back together. You're going to forgive and forget, and you're going to just, be joyous. And I think that's what happened with Vin and Paul, and you can see that Vin just took it really, really hard. The whole Fast and Furious cast, especially Tyrese, Paul and Tyrese, you could just tell when watching those films that him and Tyrese were so close. Especially look at Fast 6. I can't wait to see Fast 7, see the chemistry between the two. Look at Fast 6 and look at the chemistry between Tyrese and Paul Walker, even though there's only just a little bit of moments with those two are just together, but you could tell they're just having a lot of fun. And then Michelle Rodriguez saying she was really heartbroken and really went in a deep end after Paul's passing. So Paul Walker really touched a lot of lives, and I'm glad that his two brothers are stepping up to finish off the Furious 7. Used sprinkle a little CGI in there, and I did hear though that they did do a fantastic job of Paul Walker. That's great to hear. I just can't wait to see how they send off his character tomorrow night. And that's really my thoughts, the spotlight on Mr. Paul Walker. He will be missed. It's just, it's crazy, man. It's really makes you sit back and think that you have what you have, and try to be as good as a person that he was. He may be just a celebrity, he was a celebrity, but he touching a lot of lives and doing a lot of charitable work really makes a difference. And his stories, a lot of stories of his charitable work needs to be told. And I wish I had a lot more time to tell you those stories, but check them out. And thank you guys for listening. And I can't wait to see Fear 7 say goodbye to Paul Walker.